Do not overlook Cam Ward and the Titans in 2025. Tennessee Titans beat writer Terry McCormick joins the show to break down Cam Ward's development so far in the Titans offense, as well as fourth-round rookie Alec Iominer's role in the Titans offense, Bill Callahan and the Titans offensive line and run game, and discussing how they're looking so far. All this and much more on the other side. Welcome back to another edition of Bailey Price Media Live.
Bailey Price Media. I like it.
What's going on, everybody? Happy Tuesday. Welcome back to another edition of Bailey Price Media Live. Today, got a very special show for you today. Like I mentioned, Titans beat writer Terry McCormick joins the show to talk all things Tennessee Titans here. Man, this is going to be a great show. I can't wait to get into it. If you're watching, folks, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe, and become a member of the Bailey Price Media Army today. We got a lot to talk about here on this fine Tuesday. Without further ado, let's go ahead and bring in our special guest, our main man, veteran Tennessee Titans beat writer Terry McCormick joins the show. Terry, how you doing, man? Happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday. How are you doing, Bailey?
Doing great. Can't thank you enough for joining, my man. I can't wait to talk all things Titans, my man. I'm out here on the other side of the state, out here in Knoxville, over here with the balls and stuff. But nonetheless, I'm excited to, massive season ahead for Cam Ward and the Titans. And I wanted to get into it and ask you, let's talk Cam Ward. I wanted to ask you, Cam Ward's development so far in the Titans offense with Brian Callahan. What are your thoughts? What have you seen so far with boots on the ground? And how's he looking so far? How's his development?
Well, I think when you look at Cam Ward and you see, some of the things that he's done in practice, and granted, you take it all with a grain of salt because they're not pads on, it's not live, anything like that. But there's some certain things there, some qualities that you go, yeah, that's why they jumped up, and made him the number one pick, in the 2025 draft. But that said, the last couple of days of minicamp was a little rough for him. The defense kind of got after him a little bit. He made a couple of panic moves and got picked off. So it's a long road ahead, and training camp and preseason are going to be very, very important, not only for Cam, but for how all these other parts work together. The offensive line being redone again, a brand new receiving core except for Calvin Ridley, basically. So lots of moving parts again. Cam Ward looks to be a quick learner, and that's certainly, a mark in the plus column for him. Mm-hmm. But let me just put it to you this way. Last year, the Titans sugar-coated everything and told us that, they had the offensive line fixed. They told us that they had good receivers ready to go around Will Levis. They told us that Levis was ready for the big time, and everything crumbled like a house of cards. So I'm not buying in as easily this time.
No, I understand. I understand where you're coming from. Absolutely. Now, let me ask you: going into training camp, Cam Ward on the depth chart, is he going to have to beat out Will Levis? Is there still a competition there, or is it Cam Ward is the presumed starter going into camp?
Well, they say it's a competition, but let's be honest here. When you take a guy at number one overall, he's got the inside track to be your starting quarterback. So there would have to be something really kind of out of left field come about for Cam Ward not to be this team's opening day starter. Either an injury, or he's just not getting it, or something like that. But there's a 99% chance that Cam Ward is winning this competition to be the starting quarterback at the outset of the season.
Absolutely. And I have a question sticking on something that I really think will help Cam Ward's development and his play if he does become the presumptive starter in Tennessee. Let's talk about Bill Callahan and that Titans offensive line. I think it goes without saying, Bill Callahan's one of the best, if not the best, offensive line coach in the NFL. And we've really seen his work, you mentioned the offensive line kind of up and down last season. His work with J.C. Latham, who I think is a hell of a player in development. Going into year 2, I have big expectations for him. How can that run game help take the pressure off Cam Ward, and what are your expectations for the Titans' run game and O-line going into this season?
Well, I think the offensive line should be better. How much better? That still remains to be seen. Dan Moore is probably the key in all of this. They brought him in from the Steelers to play left tackle. They're going to shift J.C. Latham back to right tackle. J.C.'s lost about 30 pounds and looks to be in really good shape and, going to be back to his natural position over there on the right side. So that should help. If Dan Moore can answer the bell at left tackle and be what they need him to be, and if Kevin Zeitler still has a lot left in the tank and can give them a good year at left guard, and they can figure out what to do at the center position, because I'm not 100% sure Lloyd Cushenberry is going to be ready to start the season. So that could be Corey Levin there for the first handful of games. So it's still a work in progress, very much like last year. But I do believe the overall talent is better than it was a year ago. So that certainly should help Bill Callahan as he tries to mold this group into something that can protect the quarterback much better than they did a year ago.
Absolutely. Well said. You got 2 great backs, in my opinion, Pollard and Spears. Can't wait to see how they go into year 2 with having Bill Callahan developing that offensive line. Now going back to Cam Ward, I always said it with the Titans having the number 1 overall pick. I always thought it was fit with the quarterback and going into that offense. How do you feel Cam Ward fits into Brian Callahan's system in the Titans offense?
I think the best way that he fits into the offense is the fact that he processes quickly, gets the ball out of his hands quickly. That was kind of his reputation at both Washington State and Miami. And so that's what Bill Callahan wants. And I think you kind of saw a little bit of why it didn't really work with Will Levis last year, because Will Levis was drafted by Mike Vrabel. And Will Levis is a play action vertical type quarterback, the same as Ryan Tannehill. Let Derrick Henry run, hand off to Derrick Henry, fake to Derrick Henry, throw a deep out down the field or a deep post. That's Will Levis's game. That's when, you saw some of that his rookie season. Same thing as that's Ryan Tannehill's game. That's not Brian Callahan's offense. Brian Callahan's offense is predicated on getting the ball out quickly, having multiple receivers out into the routes quickly, getting guys to win their one-on-ones, get the ball out of the quarterback's hands, let that guy go make a play, and then take the occasional deep shot after you've done the shallow stuff.
Absolutely. And let me ask you, let's talk about some of Cam Ward's weapons here. Calvin Ridley, your expectations for Calvin Ridley going into the season, probably the top target on the Titans offense here, but you guys also brought in a guy I'm a big fan of. I grew up in Seattle, Tyler Lockett, grew up a big fan of his, hell of a player, veteran that I think can be great in that wide receiver room. But your expectations for Calvin Ridley going into the season with Cam Ward?
Calvin looks like a different guy. Looks very rejuvenated. I think he's bought in here in year 2. I think that he wants to work and get on the same page with Cam Ward. It took him a while last year to get on the same page with Levis. In fact, really didn't happen until after DeAndre Hopkins was traded, and they kind of didn't have a choice but to work together, the two of them. So to me, I think he's really making a concerted effort to try and get with Cam Ward and to get to know him, get on the same page. It's no coincidence that they put their lockers beside of each other so that they can kind of work through things and get to talk and do a lot of those sorts of things. Beyond Calvin, to me, there's a lot of question marks because you've got, like you mentioned, Tyler Lockett. Tyler Lockett has been a really, really solid player in this league for a long time. You hope that he has more left in the tank than, say, Tyler Boyd did last year for this team.
Yeah.
So you need Tyler Lockett to give you 50 to 60 catches and 600 to 700 yards as that number 2 target. Beyond that, Van Jefferson has looked pretty good. Again, we're talking routes on air, but Van Jefferson's looked decent. And then you've got the rookies that are there. And you mentioned Alec Ayamaner at the outset. You got Chimere Dike, and then, of course, everybody's favorite underdog in camp, Xavier Restrepo. Yeah. So, you've got those 3 guys vying for roles. And then you've got Traylon Burks, who's kind of the wild card in all of this. Can he get himself into good shape? Can he come back off that knee injury? Can he contribute anything? Because he's now 2 coaches and 2 GMs removed from being drafted by the regime that drafted him. He's on notice that his roster spot is in danger. We'll see how it translates for him.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to go back to the rookies. You brought up Alec Minor. What are your expectations, your thoughts on his role in the Titans offense? I think he's got to work his way up a little bit kind of in the depth chart, but I think in shorts, you've seen good things so far. No? What are your thoughts on his role so far?
If you stand the rookie receivers up and you just look at him, he's the one that most looks the part of an NFL wide receiver. Big, he can run a little bit, got pretty good hands, can turn. I'm surprised he lasted until the 4th round. Thought he was a pretty solid player. And from what I've seen of him so far, looks good. That's going to take some time. I'm not expecting this guy to come out and catch 8 passes for 100 yards against the Broncos and light the world on fire. Most rookies, it takes time for them to develop at the receiver position and any position, really. But he kind of reminds me, I've said it a time or two, and I don't really want to put this on his head, but he's like a less athletic, a little stiffer version of A.J. Brown. He's kind of built similarly to A.J., but he doesn't have quite the explosiveness and athleticism that A.J. does.
No doubt. And I don't mind. He's got an interesting background, a hockey background. He comes from Canada, and he actually left he left Canada for prep school here. He actually talked about it in a press conference. I wanted to show this clip. Take a listen here.
Made that switch, and did that prove beneficial for you?
Honestly, it's very hard to get recruited from Canada. There just isn't a lot of respect for the competition or the coaching, and it's a different game too. The motion, 12 guys, goalpost in the front of the end zone, and so for me, it was an opportunity for me to get in front of U.S. coaches, play U.S. football, and really just have a lot more exposure to the game. Because my goal was to play Division I and then eventually make it to the NFL. And really, that was the only option I had to try to boost my odds for that to happen.
Difficult for.
Yeah, and he actually at Stanford played with several former teammates of mine, and obviously had quite the catch against Travis Hunter, and ever since then all eyes have been on him. Great player, and I'm really excited to see him in the Titans offense this season.
Yeah, it's interesting. He talked about, coming to the U.S. to a prep school so that he could get recruited once he left hockey and decided to make football a go for him. And that's a smart move on his part, because in Canada, the high schools and the colleges play the 12-man 3-down rule like the Canadian Football League does.
Right,
so It's different. So he made the right move by coming to the U.S. and getting himself noticed and getting to play Power 5 football at Stanford.
Definitely. Absolutely. And great point. Can't wait to see him in the Titans offense. Now, let's move to the defense. Terry, because I think the Titans defensive line, at least on paper, looks really damn good. Devondre Sweat and Jeffrey Simmons, obviously, in the interior, and then you got Joseph Day and Draymond Jones coming over from Seattle as well. Man, your expectations for the Titans defensive line and defense as a whole going into this season?
Yeah, I think the defensive line is the strength of this defense. Obviously, if Jeffrey Simmons can, bounce back from maybe what was a little bit of a down year for him last year, if he can bounce back and Devondre Sweat takes the next step and continues to develop as that run stuffer and can add maybe some pass rush to his game, then I think those two guys are kind of the linchpin for this defense. Elsewhere, I think I'm a little concerned. Well, I'm not a little concerned. I'm a lot concerned that the edge group is not going to be able to generate the pass rush that you need. Harold Landry didn't have a great year last year, but he still had 9 sacks. So who's replacing that productivity? Could it be Draymond Jones? Could it be Lorenzo Carter? Could it be Femi Oladejo? Is it going to be a combination of those guys plus Arden Key? How's it going to look? How's it going to work? Personally, I think what's going to have to happen is that Denard Wilson's going to have to get creative. He's going to have to start dialing up more blitzes maybe than he did a year ago. The problem with that is when you dial up those blitzes, then you got to ask your secondary guys to cover a lot of one-on-ones. Because if you send that nickel back or you send that strong safety in for a blitz to try to give you an extra man to get to the quarterback, if you're going against a guy who gets the ball out really fast, if you're going against, a Joe Burrow or a Patrick Mahomes, they're going to see it. And if you don't get to them, they're going to make you pay. So to me, that's where a guy like, L'Jarius Sneed has to be healthy, to be able to, be that number one cornerback that they traded for last year and then got injured and didn't contribute very much. And on the other side, that means that, guys like Jarvis Brownlee Jr., guys like Darrell Baker in a support role are going to have to come through. Roger McCreary going to have another solid year, and your safeties. It's going to mean Amani Hooker, Xavier Woods, some of those guys that they've been bringing in. They're going to have to be on their game if they're going to have to blitz to manufacture pressure, because there will be a lot more one-on-ones and a lot more responsibility for those guys to stay with their man a little longer.
Absolutely. And I want to ask you about another player in your defense, Cody Barton, former Seahawk. What are your define his role on the Titans defense? I've been seeing clips of him in Titans minicamp, and what are your expectations for Cody Barton? I'm excited to see him for Tennessee.
Well, they brought him in basically to be sort of the quarterback of the defense. Mm-hmm. He's going to probably have the green dot. He's going to be the guy that's going to be the 3-down linebacker. He's going to be out there, a lot, making the calls and doing a lot of things that they've needed over the last couple of years. I think what you're talking about with Cody Barton is a self-made guy who kind of started out on special teams, made a role there, bounced around the league a little bit, found himself, getting an opportunity and then making the most of it, especially last year or so with the Denver Broncos. And then the Titans reward him with the deal here. And he comes here and he's going to be one of the starting inside linebackers. And the other one still remains to be seen. Could be Cedric Gray, could be James Williams, could be Otis Reese, could be anybody. Could be somebody that's not even on the roster yet that they might claim off the waiver wire or trade for somewhere in camp or whatever. But it's going to be interesting to see, because a lot of responsibility is going to be on Cody Barton's shoulders, because he doesn't know who he's going to be playing alongside, and he's got to get the other guys on the defense lined up and ready to go.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm excited. I mean, I've seen clips of him talking about going back and forth with Cam Ward. Let me ask you, expectations for the Titans in the AFC South. I think the division is pretty wide open. Houston's a big question mark to me, but I think C.J. Stroud's a great, great quarterback and very, very talented. But expectations for the Titans in AFC South, presumably Cam Ward, a quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, I still see that this team is probably toward the bottom of the division right now until proven otherwise. Right. I think you look, Houston to me is the clear favorite, and like you said, not only because of Stroud, who's had a really great rookie season, then had a good season last year, and hoping to probably bounce back to that 2023 level that he played at. Great. And then you've got the Colts, who are, don't know what they're doing at quarterback. It's starting to, with the injuries and the inconsistency of Anthony Richardson, it's starting to feel like they're going to take a chance on Daniel Jones perhaps as their starter. And if it doesn't work out any better than it did with the Giants, that might not be very pretty. To me, the wild card in this division is Jacksonville. If Liam Cohen can unlock what we know Trevor Lawrence has or had at Clemson, if he can unlock some of that, the Jaguars could go from not so good to pretty decent pretty quickly. If not, then you start to wonder what went wrong with Trevor Lawrence, or what did we not see that, has caused him to not reach that lofty draft status and that generational type talent that we were told he was.
Yeah, and I've had, several, people who cover the Jaguars in this show recently, and big question mark, probably the biggest in the division, like you mentioned, and they traded up and drafted Travis Hunter, gave up a lot for, to get him. And I thought it's a great, I'm a fan of Travis Hunter. Now, let's see if Trevor Lawrence can get him the ball now, and how Trevor Lawrence looks in Liam Cohen's offense. But man, Terry, I can't thank you enough for joining the show, giving us that great insight on the Tennessee Titans. Would love to have you back on again, get close to the season. And man, can't wait to see how Cam Ward looks with the Titans going into this season.
All right. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining. Shout out to Terry McCormick, veteran, longtime Tennessee Titans beat writer. He knows his stuff. Shout out to him for joining the show, giving us that insight on the Tennessee Titans, breaking down Cam Ward's development so far in the Titans offense. Talking Bill Callahan, the offensive line coach down there, or over there in Nashville, in the Titans run game. Talking Tennessee Titans wide receivers, that defense, and so much more. Chat, let me know. What are your thoughts on the Titans? How many games do you think they'll win this season? What's their ceiling with Cam Ward at quarterback? I think it's a big question mark right now, especially in that division. But let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below. We'll be live here again on Thursday talking all things New England Patriots. So if you're a Patriots fan and or a football fan in general, tune in to Bailey Price Media live on Thursday. Folks, I can't thank you enough for tuning in here on this special show. Hit that like button, subscribe, become a member of the Bailey Price Media Army today, and I'll see you guys on Thursday. I can't thank you enough for tuning in, and let me know your thoughts on the Titans headed into 2025. But last thing I will say is do not overlook Cam Ward and the Titans. See you guys on Thursday, folks. Peace.